Welcome to Scriptcase, the low-code platform that helps you create complete and professional systems with speed and flexibility. In this video, I will introduce you to the new charts released within the version 9.12. Within the version Scriptcase 9.12, we have updated charts library from version 3.17.0 to version 4.0.2. And with this update, we have improved the current charts and also added new type of charts. So let's meet the new charts. So the first one is the heat map, which is a chart used to represent the intensity of value through colors. It is useful for identifying correlation patterns, value distribution, and highlights within a large data set. So as we can see, we have this visual matrix representation with rows and columns, and then you're going to have the values with different colors intensity, and you're going to be able to analyze the heat of the values. So let's see inside a Scriptcase how we can create this chart. We need to have at least 2 dimensions in one metric, and then in this case here I have students and subjects, and then we are going to analyze the grades, the heat of the grades, and then let's run here the chart. Okay, so we have here the subjects and also the students, and you have this scale where you can also use to interact with the chart dynamically. You can hover and see the detail inside each of the values, and these colors is according to the chart theme. You're also able to modify using here the option theme. You can change the colors and all the options inside the themes. With the gradient option, you can add different colors palette and change the colors of your matrix. So you can use this also to identify trends and anomalies in sales data, analyzing website heat maps for user engagement, performance, monitoring various industries, temperature distribution in geographic maps. So you have different use case for this heat map, and very interesting and useful, now available inside Scriptcase. The next one is the tree map. It's quite similar to the heat map, and then you have a hierarchical graphical representation of data using nested rectangles. It is useful for visualizing complex data structures, categories, and subcategories, allowing users to identify also patterns, trends, and proportions. So here we have this example. Let's see inside Scriptcase. I have here the tree map. In this case, we need to have at least 2 dimensions and 2 metrics. I'm using here this table with the regions and then countries, so I'm doing the dimensions by region and country, and then we have sales and also headcount count. Okay, so total of sales and headcount count. So we have here the word, and then we can, for example, navigate between the regions, and we can see that the size of the region will be according to the sale. So different of the heat map, for example, that all rectangles are same size. Like here we have the size according to the value, as big as the rectangle. So we have here also this for the continent. So we have, for example, Asia here with a small area. It means you have less sales inside this region and also inside the countries of this region. You can also move the scale according to the values, and you'll be able to hover and see the details. And you can also change here the labels. You have the labels is going to be according to the table that you are using, and then you have this main label here that you can customize accessing the options inside the chart. You have here one option to set this label. You can also use a length variable for this title. Okay, so this is how you're going to create the tree map, and then you have different user cases as well. For example, comparing sales as we did, analyzing performance by region, sector or product, identifying hidden patterns and trends in data. As we saw, we have this option to zoom in and zoom out to explore different data levels, and also the colors and sizes according to the data. And this is the tree map. The next one is the Sankey diagram. This is very interesting. It's like a flow chart that visually represents the movement and distribution of values between different categories. So we can use to understand flows of energy, money, processes, or any other type of value transfer between entities. So you have two different dimensions, and then you're going to analyze a flow between these two dimensions. Let's see here one example. Inside Scriptcase, we have here two dimensions. It's mandatory at least to have two dimensions. So I'm analyzing here the sales also from one country to the continent, and then we are going to have here the summary of sales. So let's run here the chart. So you have the country, and you can see the proportion, like the size of the line. It's going to be according to the amount of sales, and in this case here we are doing the comparison of the flow according to each continent. So we have the countries, and then we have the flow comparing to each continent. So how much sale did this country to America, to Europe, to Asia, and also to Africa. We have here very few sales to Africa, a little bit more to America, and then also few sales to Asia, and most of the sales to Europe. So in this case here of this country. Okay, so this is how you can use the Sankey chart. I have here a little bit more about it. So you can also use to analyze revenue and expense flows, consumption and waste visualization, efficiency analysis and user journey mapping, tracking user navigation on a website. So you always have this relationships between nodes and how values move between them. The width of the connections is proportional to the amount of flow, as we saw, and the hover effects highlight the flows and nodes, making it easier to analyze bottlenecks and trends. The next chart is the Sunburst. It is ideal for visualizing hierarchies and relationships between categories and segmented in a segmented and intuitive way. Represents data in concentric layers where each level of hierarchy is displayed as a ring, making it easier to understand data structures. We have here one example using a table of continents, then region and countries, and also the amount of sales. So we have the value in the center, the big value in the center, and then the regions moving from the center according to the sales in this case. So you can also see, for example, the continents and the countries, and you are able to interact inside each continent and go back, and then you can see here the regions. So you have continents, then you have regions and countries. You can also use, for example, for employees, you have the CEO and then C-level and then managers and employees. So you can use in different ways. User cases, display company departments, as we saw, analyze customer distribution by region, monitor product performance. So you will have always these layers, and users can interact with the different levels to explore the data. And you also have these colors helps distinguish different segments and subcategories, like in this case that we saw here, that we have continents, regions inside the continents, and the countries. Next chart is the chord diagram, also a circular chart that represents relationships between different categories or groups of data. It consists of segments around a circle connected by arcs. So you have this thickness of the arcs indicates the strength of the relationship. So we are also using here to analyze, like for example, in this case of this table, we have amount exported from one country to another country. So we have countries that exported and countries that received the exports, and then I have here the tables and the total of values exported. So we can see the movement from one country to another. So here we have, for example, the USA that exported to China. Then we have the values, and we have USA exporting to Canada, and then we have USA exporting to India, then USA exporting to Europe and UK. So then we have this movement inside the circle. You also have the opposite, for example, Canada to the US, Canada to the UK, Canada to China, and this is how this chord chart will work. You need to have at least 2 dimensions and 1 metric, and you'll be able here to select the chart type as chord diagram. Inside the application, you will be able to change. The charts are available also here inside the generated application. So you could use, for example, for this case, different charts. If we use, for example, the traditional bar, we can also see that Scriptcase have improved the visualization. If you navigate here, you have now this option for you to follow like the breadcrumb of the data, and then you can return. So you have this also implemented here inside the chart application. Since we have updated the library, you have more options available here inside the Coherent charts as well. We have this gauge display tick marks also available for the gauge charts, and basically this is what we have implemented inside this chart application. The new charts and the update of the library, it will bring also better performance and better visualization for the charts. I hope you like it, the news, and if you're new to Scriptcase, this is the perfect moment for you to test, sign up for free, and see what Scriptcase is able to do with your system development. I see you next video. Bye bye.